Politicians talk a big game about lowering food prices and increasing competition. Right now, they're trying to lure in foreign grocers into Canada. These food industry experts say that's a waste of time. For food prices to be more accessible, they say the Canadian government should support independent grocers and food co-ops. Here's how that could work, starting with independent grocers.
We don't feel like there's much help coming in from the government.
Nashmadeen says the biggest challenge for him and other independent grocers is the relationship with food suppliers. Basically, independent grocers pay more money for food than big chains because they buy less product. So they don't get volume discounts.
It's difficult for them to compete in an equitable way with the large grocers.
In Ontario, for instance, about 59% of the grocery stores are independent. Yet most independent grocers in that province buy their products from Loblaw and Empire. They're two of the biggest chains and distributors in Canada.
In many cases, if you're an independent, you're buying from your retail competitor.
But a fair playing field between grocers and suppliers is needed if smaller players are to survive, according to SANS. And that's what the new Grocery Code of Conduct is trying to achieve. The voluntary set of rules is aimed at improving the relationship between grocery retailers and suppliers. This food marketing professor says it also wants to lay out a better way for smaller grocers to do business.
It prevents large grocers from taking advantage of their size and exerting pressure back on their suppliers. It takes market power away from the big people, and it makes it easier for these independent grocers to compete.
Big players like Loblaw and Walmart had spoken out against the Grocery Code of Conduct, saying it would lead to higher prices at their stores. This stalled the code's implementation and led to months of negotiations. Loblaw has now agreed to sign the revised code if other competitors do too. Walmart also said it's reviewing the latest draft. The Canadian government says developing these rules is their #1 priority.
There will be a code of conduct one way or the other.
The industry committee studying food prices has said if big retailers don't sign on, they'll make it mandatory through legislation. And what about grocery co-ops? They're food stores that are collectively owned by a community, not by an individual family or by a company. Owners pay a membership fee, but anyone can shop there. The food experts I spoke with say co-ops are providing communities an alternative to shopping at big grocery chains.
Co-ops do make a dent in grocery prices. Where I live, there's a Loblaw-owned store, a Sobeys-owned store, and another store owned by the Jim Pattison Group. Our co-op competes with all of these stores, and the prices are the same or cheaper.
In Canada's north, food is expensive because it's transported long distances overseas by plane or ship, and there's only one dominant grocer. But more than 30 co-ops provide services and food to the community.
They've really demonstrated the importance of how to create an alternative to a monopoly, more so than anywhere else in Canada.
There are about 9,000 co-ops across Canada, with about a third located in Quebec.
Cooperatives in Quebec are substantially supported by the Quebec government.
He says co-ops in other provinces could use more help from different levels of government.
We could think of tax credits, we could think of incentives, help with rent, help with financing. If governments were to support co-ops, that would be one tangible way and really quick turnaround within 18 to 24 months of coming up with some program. We could see co-ops and local food systems make a big dent in trying to help Canadians to lower their grocery bills.
Co-ops keep the money flowing within their communities. They also exist in areas that are not viable for big chains to open. Take Canada's Arctic, where more than 30 co-ops are owned by Inuit communities that help people access food, but also services like snowmobile repair.
But co-ops are taxed the same as a business that is extracting wealth out of its community and giving it to shareholders that don't live here. So maybe we need to think about a preferential tax treatment for co-ops that provide so much to their communities.